In recent years, some Chinese women have shown a growing preference for dating foreign men, including black men, over local Chinese partners. This trend has sparked anger among certain segments of Chinese society, who view it as a rejection of traditional values or even a form of betrayal. However, love and attraction are personal decisions, and resentment toward interracial relationships highlights the need for greater openness in a rapidly changing China. Why do some girls prefer to date foreign guys? Maybe domestic guys are more traditional. Actually, I think foreign guys might be a bit different compared to local ones. Since I don't have a boyfriend myself, I just feel like foreign guys might be more gentlemanly.
中国女孩为什么喜欢
Why do Chinese girls like to marry foreigners? In recent years, why are Chinese girls increasingly favoring foreign men when it comes to love and marriage? What are the underlying reasons and main factors? First, appearance and charm win their hearts. Foreign men often have a more rugged, tall, and wild bloodline, thick body hair, full beards, and a stronger, more masculine aura. Combined with their humor and quirky charm, women are more likely to develop crushes on them. Second, better financial conditions and prospects. Most foreigners who come to China to study, work, or interact locally tend to have relatively strong financial backgrounds, promising careers,
It don't matter where you at. They trying to get that money overseas.
and future potential. Third, considerations for immigration, living abroad, and children's future education. Some see marriage to a foreigner as a pathway to settling overseas and providing better education and opportunities for their future children. Fourth, cultural appeal and trends, romantic ideals play a role. For those learning English or other foreign languages, being with a foreigner makes communication and cultural exchange easier. There's also a fascination with foreign cultures and a yearning for a more diverse, novel lifestyle. Some desire mixed-race babies or exotic-looking children, driven partly by vanity. Dating a foreigner feels cool and impressive, earning admiration from others. The outsider is always perceived as superior, and curiosity can be irresistible, even if it leads to unexpected consequences.
为什么很多华人女性喜欢
Why do many Chinese women prefer to marry foreigners? I think besides the issue of residency status, some people also believe that foreigners are more attractive in terms of looks. But honestly, I don't
And when y'all say foreigners, and when y'all say foreigner blacks, like, are y'all referring to black Americans or Africans?
think these are the most important reasons. Many people feel that foreigners place more emphasis on gender equality and are more dedicated to spending time with their families. Although we also value gender equality, most of the time it's just lip service. Once, while out with friends and our kids, I summarized a few observations. Chinese women abroad often end up raising children alone, just like single mothers. Their husbands are either always on the road driving trucks or doing some other job that keeps them away from home. Even on weekends when they're off, they're either out
Wait, can somebody explain this to me? So there's a fatherless epidemic in China, not due because they're single mothers, but due because they're working too much. What the? Because they're working too much? Dude, I'd rather be at the crib, me personally, but that sounds crazy. I'm gonna let this keep going though.
drinking with friends or lying in bed exhausted, scrolling on their phones all day.
And she said Americans tend to be at home more? And y'all trying to date black? We will make you a single mom. What are you talking about? And not me as an individual. We as a collective.
After playing with the kids for just a few minutes, they'll say, "Go find mommy." In contrast, in the US, it's more common to see foreign men taking care of their families. They may have their own careers, but they're still willing to put more effort into being present for their children's growth. For example, when we're at the park, we usually see men taking care of the kids. Sometimes foreign families will come to the park together, but from what I've observed, the mom is often dressed up nicely, sitting on the sidelines, while the dad is the one actively engaging with the kids. They rarely
That's not how, bro. No, you don't want that. Trust me, you don't want that, bro. That's because a lot of dudes is mad feminine out now. And yeah, there's some things we'll do, like obviously, like with with kids and stuff like that, but trust me, you don't want that. You don't. It looks good on the outside, but you're not used to men acting like women. So at some point, you're gonna be like, I'd rather lean back towards the masculine dude who's going to work all the time and letting me be in charge of the emotional development of my kids. Right now, you're complaining about it because you're looking at American women and men, and you feel like men are more likely to wipe a diaper, and Asian men aren't doing that. They're just going to say, "Hey, go to your mom." You don't want that. Trust me, you don't want that. You will be broke. Niggas is broke. That's why we home able to do that, bro. Like, stop it.
Spend time taking photos with their phones. Instead, they focus on enjoying the moment. Last week, I took my child to the playground and even saw a foreign man looking after 6 kids by himself. I was utterly impressed. Moreover, living with a foreigner often means a more relaxed lifestyle. They never miss out on holiday traditions and celebrations. Meanwhile, for us hardworking folks abroad,
You're right about that. Americans love their holidays and they not missing it. Me, I'm not that type of American though. I don't do holidays and birthdays and all that. I'm like, y'all don't really have time to get time to celebrate it due to what you're into, work, whatever type of work y'all doing. I'm like that.
who even has the energy to celebrate holidays? We're already drained by demanding jobs and monotonous daily routines. Of course, no matter the nationality, there are both responsible men and deadbeats. At the end of the day, a happy life depends on how you manage it yourself. Let's discuss in the comments, what are the pros and cons of marrying a foreigner? If it were you, which nationality would you choose? Personally, I'd still choose a Chinese partner. Because I believe sharing the same cultural background leads to better communication and understanding.
为什么好多女生
Why do so many girls prefer Western men, especially 5 years ago? Back then, no matter how mediocre many Western men were, when they came to our country or anywhere in East Asia, they could change girlfriends as if it cost them nothing. The reason is simple. In the eyes of many girls, Western men are like an upgraded version of the bad boy archetype. Women first project a fantasy persona onto you and then treat you based on that imagined persona.
Yo, I hate that, and he cooking right now. Women definitely do like project a fantasy, like perspective of you onto you and start treating you that way. And this is why he think that, you know, Chinese women are into foreigners. They thinking we all like Arnold Schwarzenegger and the damn Terminator, when that's not the case at all. See, you think you attracted to that hyper masculinity until your man tell you shut the hell up.
This is why players and heartbreakers spend so much time crafting their image. If your persona fits their fantasy, as long as you don't make a fatal mistake, they'll find ways to justify and forgive your behavior. For example, if an average guy holds her hand on the first date, she might feel offended. But if it's a bad boy or a Western guy doing the same thing, she'd interpret it differently.
Yo, they know what's going on in China. Yeah, they know what's going on.
If he doesn't hold her hand on the first date, she might worry he's not interested and end up chasing him instead. If an average guy takes her to a casual local restaurant, she might think he's cheap or disrespectful. But if a bad boy or Western guy just takes her for milk tea and a walk down the street, she'd find it romantic and full of youthful charm.
Yo, female nature is crazy, bro. They know about it. Oh my God, there's no escaping it.
In the past, many Western films and TV shows promoted white superiority, where any random white guy could travel somewhere else, save the world, and marry a princess. That's the power of cultural packaging, strong, dominant, and aspirational. Many girls watched these shows, believed the narrative, and fantasized about dating such men themselves.
中国女孩正在倒
Chinese girls are throwing themselves at white men, and this is how Westerners.
That's a fact. And for all my Asians who come across this video, me and my homies in America, we always wonder, why are Chinese women madly in love with white men? Answer that in the comments for us, please.
Actually see us. This is an invisible new form of racial discrimination. First, there was the case of a 37-year-old Ukrainian esports player, married with a family, who hooked up with a 21-year-old college student on their first date, then bragged about it in a fan group, posting photos of her eating chips for him. Then there was the foreign influencer who came to China, enjoyed free food, drinks, and fun, only to go live later and say that Chinese girls are easy to get, easy to hook, and easy to scam. Like a piece of Brazilian steak. At the end of the video, he even recommended Chinese girls to other foreigners, hot and easy, encouraging them to go for it without hesitation.
No. That's if you're white, though. Like, let's keep that in mind, guys. That's if you're white. That's not if you're black. We don't got it like that now. But I'm listening.
Don't rush to blame the girls for lacking self-respect. In reality, all of this is essentially the result of a deliberate Western agenda. Just like the emasculation plan, the goal is to intensify gender conflict and increase social division. Overtly, they use movies and TV shows to portray Chinese men as short, petty, poor, incompetent, and weak. Covertly, they tarnish their reputation through so-called feminist rhetoric, exaggerating the proportion of overconfident, toxic men. Meanwhile, Hollywood blockbusters add a glamorous filter to
And that's why the lady before her that was speaking, I feel like she's kind of talking to her. Like, that's why I said you don't want that. A lot of that is okay, and then too much of it could come off very feminine, like for a man. So she's even saying they got a little feminist movement they pushing over there. But to the girl prior, she was saying like women over there talk about feminism, but they don't actually act on it. Because they don't really want that, but they like to just talk about equality. She's saying like y'all, the fact that y'all even have a little bit over here is messing with the Chinese men over there. The perception of them globally.
white men, noble, rich, gentlemanly, respectful toward women, and so on. As early as 2016,
I'm sorry I keep interrupting. I'm sorry. This is my last comment though. Why? Because I'm black and I'm in America, right? So we know what colorism is. Colorism is here. Who started colorism? Europeans. And how did y'all let it become global, especially in countries like Asia, where y'all are the predominant people in y'all country? How did you guys let colorism affect y'all in this type of stuff, like with the movies, how they just showed the tall white man being the savior and all that? How did y'all get into y'all country? Y'all not even Christians. How did you guys allow that? Now, for here, we have an excuse. But how did way over in that land did this happen? Even in Africa, you got colorism. How did y'all allow this in these predominantly black countries? We ain't talking about America where our ancestors came here, was forced to come here and all that, where we didn't have a choice. But I'm going to keep it going, though.
A public intellectual posted on Weibo. First-class women marry Europeans or Americans. Second-class women marry Japanese or Koreans. Third-class women marry men from Hong Kong or Macau. Fourth-class women marry mainland Chinese men. In short, marrying a white man seems like reaching the pinnacle of life, while marrying a Chinese man is the beginning of all misfortune. Chinese men aren't good enough for Chinese women. Under this subtle indoctrination, the most direct consequence has already emerged. Many girls become extremely picky when pursued by men from their own country. The house must be big enough, the car expensive enough, the dowry hefty enough, otherwise it means he doesn't love or value her. But for foreign men? No need for houses, cars, or dowries. Some even spend their own money to buy houses and cars to support a foreign man, and take pride in it. Vilifying Chinese men has become political correctness for many cultural workers. A few insults against Chinese men can earn them a flood of followers. Yet in tech, manufacturing, and national defense, Chinese men remain the backbone. But now efforts are being made to deliberately weaken, despise, and suppress Chinese masculinity, all to break the backbone of Chinese civilization.
See, now this was wavy about China. At least the women will speak out on like, yo, all that feminist, man, get that out of here, man. Get it up out of here, man, because you're messing it up for us. Over here, it ain't like that. Like, you got a couple females that might pick it apart, and they still be kind of scared to pick it apart all the way because they don't want to be called a pick-me. You know, you might have some that's like, some brave ones like, I'm standing on what I'm saying, oh well. But, you know, this is interesting that this is happening in a whole nother country. It would be nice if my American subscribers could actually see what's going on. We welcome the Chinese subscribers as well, but y'all know what's going on. We don't know this is going on. We think this is just here.
External forces push brainwashing, while internal cultural elites play along. With this inside-outside collusion, men can't find partners, birth rates plummet, and from ideology to social reality, it's a complete collapse. Sigh, is this the post-colonial era of Western ideology? What do you think? Why do students like to find foreign boyfriends? Chinese girls who date foreign boyfriends are actually not that common, unless they grew up abroad or went overseas during high school. If you went abroad for university or graduate school, it's very hard to find a foreign boyfriend. Communication just doesn't work. It's not that you can't speak English, but rather that your ways of thinking are completely out of sync. Of course, some girls date foreigners because of movies, and their progress is extremely fast.
为什么黑人成为了女孩？
Of black men become the romantic interests pursued by girls. Women who choose to date or marry black men often look down on domestic men deep down. I once met a black guy from Ghana back in school. At the time, my friends and I would play soccer together once a month. I asked him, "Do you have a Chinese girlfriend?" He straight up told me he had many, so many that he could switch to a new one every week. I was shocked. When I asked how he managed to get Chinese girlfriends, he said he'd just ask girls for their numbers directly, in Mandarin. If one refused, he'd move on to the next. He'd ask over a dozen girls a day and some would always give in. Once he got their numbers, he'd invite them out at night under the pretext of—
You see how talking to girls is a numbers game? She's talking about this man as if it was easy for him to have dozens of Chinese women as a black man, but he literally told her I had to at least ask a dozen girls a day and one would bite. Like, that's a lot of people you have to talk to just to hear one yes.
of learning Chinese from them. He'd just keep making them laugh. Chinese girls act reserved in public, he said, but when no one's around, oh, they're really open. Of course, they might pretend to resist at first, but if he persisted, they'd eventually give in. Hearing this, I finally understood the secret to never being single. Compared to Chinese men, black guys are more outgoing, lively, and proactive. When a Chinese guy sees a girl he likes, his first reaction is insecurity. But when a black guy sees a girl he likes, he just walks right up and starts talking. Their strategy is to cast a wide net, hook whoever takes the bait. Chinese men? They fixate on one girl, chasing her relentlessly, sending red envelopes.
Yeah, that's what you don't do, bro. That's what you don't do, player. That's just, it just doesn't work. At least over here, you're gonna be one lonely dude. You do that over here. I don't know about over there. And you're gonna do all that, and it won't even be worth it. When you finally do catch the fish, it won't even be worth it. That's why we don't even do that over here. We're not about to do all that. No. And these are genuine reasons why you don't do that. It's not just on some like, you're too cool to do it. It's genuine reasons.
Gifts, you name it. The simping is next level professional. So girls don't like black men because they're better. It's because women think black boyfriends are bold and manly. They also feel proud to have a foreign boyfriend. Plus, they get a sense of presence and security from them. Chinese men? Well, it's hard to say. If you want to learn more about this, check out my first video or come chat with me. No one understands you better than me, you're Sanyu.
中国女孩是
Are Chinese girls easy girls? First, there was a Ukrainian esports player flaunting intimate photos of a 21-year-old Chinese female college student who traveled thousands of miles to initiate a hookup. Then, foreign influencers came to China, enjoyed lavish treatment, and openly mocked Chinese girls as hot and easy. So easy to get that they're as cheap as a Brazilian steak. At the end of their videos, they even encouraged their followers to come and try their luck. Going further back, there was the infamous case of two foreigners in Shanghai challenging themselves to kiss 100 Chinese women on the street. And of course, they succeeded with flying colors. An unemployed American repairman came to China and not only became a foreign teacher but also gained widespread respect, even getting stopped on the street for photos. Most importantly, in his eyes, Chinese girls were very cute, beautiful, and forward. He claimed that over 200 women wanted to sleep with him and have mixed-race babies. Some even offered him money. To foreigners, Chinese girls are nothing but yellow.
Wait. This is what it's like to be white? This is what it's like to be white? What?
Yellow cabs. Interpret that as you will. If Chinese women are seen as easy girls, what about Chinese men? Western media portrays Chinese men as short, petty, poor, and incompetent, while white men are depicted as noble, wealthy, gentlemanly.
Yo, most people in America are very short, by the way. Most men. Literally, more than 95%.
And respectful toward women. They vilify Chinese men while funneling money to certain public intellectuals in China to fuel gender conflict and tarnish the image of Chinese men through so-called feminist rhetoric. Why? Because in the hearts of these white supremacists, they have never given up on colonizing and exploiting China. As early as 2016, a public intellectual posted on Weibo, First-class women marry Westerners, second-class women marry Japanese or Koreans, third-class women marry Hong Kong or Macau men, and fourth-class women marry mainland men. As if marrying a white man elevates a woman to the pinnacle of success, while marrying a Chinese man marks her as a failure. This is where all the misfortune begins. Thus, Chinese women started throwing themselves at white men. On social media, some Chinese women proudly post about kissing foreigners, enthusiastically sharing their experiences. Meanwhile, radical feminist influencers scream that Chinese men aren't good enough for Chinese women, while simultaneously running what amounts to a pimping business. How? First, they brainwash women, convincing them of a fairy tale future with foreign men. Then, they actively introduce these women to foreign men, setting up romantic encounters. Behind the scenes, these feminist influencers profit by selling out their own countrywomen, living in luxury homes and driving expensive cars. They're essentially madams, yet they maintain a pristine feminist image. The ordinary women they exploit? Just lambs to the slaughter, happily counting the money for their own betrayers. By the time their youth is wasted, some may find themselves inexplicably pregnant, returning home with no idea how it happened, already reduced to meat on someone else's chopping block. But are Chinese men really unworthy of Chinese women? The truth is, most Chinese men, shaped by schooling and traditional family values, are hardworking and selfless. Whether in tech, manufacturing, or national defense, Chinese men have always stepped up to the front lines. Yet even today, many Chinese media outlets continue to glorify foreign sons-in-law and mixed-race babies, treating preferential treatment for foreigners as something to boast about. As the great scientist Qian Shuesan once said, "To destroy a nation, you only need to strip men of their backbone and courage, and women of their modesty and kindness." We are on the path to national rejuvenation. When foreigners casually throw around terms like easy girl and humiliate our sisters, it's no longer just an attack on one gender, it's a broader, systemic discrimination and bullying against our people. In the face of such toxic trends, we must remember, if we don't occupy the high ground of public opinion, the enemy will. What we can do is resist these poisonous narratives pushed by so-called public intellectuals and influencers, driving such toxic influencers out of China. At the same time, the quality of a nation's people depends on the education and character of its women. We must strengthen our cultural confidence and integrity, ensuring that lies have no place to hide before the truth.